Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Today we've got a banger of a story time about my first time smoking weed and getting high. Now, this took place during my eighth grade year, so probably about October 2022. I had to be maybe 13 at this point, and let's just get into it. So, to paint the picture, it was an average day in the school year. The school year had just started, and I had got to school, and it was a normal day. Started off hanging out with my friends until the bell rung, and we had to go to class. Now, we had homeroom first thing every morning and a second homeroom period before lunch. And in my homeroom class, I had a crazy lineup of friends. For this story, though, we're mainly talking about my friend Braden and his cart. So, Braden and I had started getting pretty close, and he had offered to let me hit his dispo a few times before, but I always said no because I hadn't really ever done drugs before. But I remember, I remember he always had these little orange fuckers. I think they were called Dabwoods. It's what everyone was smoking in eighth grade. And looking back, they were honestly like it was decent, but like the plug was definitely taxing us on it. But I mean, fair to him. We were eighth graders, so nevertheless, Braden, as he usually would this fateful morning, offered the dabwood to everyone at the table, and I happened to say yes for the first time. Because why not? I mean, I wanted to try, and most of my friends did it soon after. Some of my friends had done it before, like Jordan, who we'll talk about later in the story. So yeah, Braden had handed me the cart in the middle of class and told me to go hit it in the bathroom. And while he handed it to me, he explained how to hit it. He said since it was a dispo, I didn't have to press or hold any buttons. I just needed to rip it. And he told me that once I hit it to inhale after, like to inhale air after, like hit it and then so the smoke would for sure go into my lungs. So I take the card, put it in my pocket, and asked if I could go to the bathroom. And the teacher said yes, obviously. So I stood up and started getting ready um, to go to the bathroom. And thankfully, the bathroom was only one building away. So I, get up, stroll over there pretty quickly, but I noticed that there was a security guard on, like, guarding the bathroom. Um, but luckily, it was one of the female guards, so she couldn't go into the boys' bathroom. So I figured I was all good. And also at this point of the year, the bathrooms didn't have smoke detectors yet. They eventually added them, and honestly, it was probably because of me and my friend group, and honestly, my whole class, because my class of eighth grade was fucking crazy. Um, but yeah, I went inside, headed into the big stall, and honestly, I was kind of nervous, but I just like said fuck it, and I ripped that shit. I remember instantly, as soon as I started inhaling, the feeling of my lungs just like burning. But I pushed past it and hit it as long as I could. Excuse me, which was still a small hit, like objectively, but a big one for the first time smoking nonetheless. I had inhaled the air like he told me to right after, but I just couldn't hold it in. I just started coughing a lung up because of how much it like fucked me. It genuinely hurt so bad, and anyone who smoked for the first time can probably relate. It felt like my lungs were being torn apart from the inside. After coughing for what felt like forever, I finally stopped, took a piss, washed my hands, and headed back to class. But on my way out, I was already stressing about the security guard because of how like long and hard I was coughing and how loud I was being. Like it was pretty fucking obvious. And when I leave the bathroom, I swear the security guard that was there, she knew what I was up to, because on the way back to class, she was mean mugging me the whole time, calling in her radio. Nothing ended up happening, but I ended up making it back to my homeroom class, and it had already been a couple minutes, but I had already felt it by the time I sat down. And my friends immediately pointed out how faded I looked already, and I mean, they were right. I was feeling pretty good. I was feeling a little toasty. So I sat down and I handed the cart back to Braden, and he was asking me how it was, and I started telling him how much it hurt my lungs and how much I was coughing, and it still did hurt my lungs after, like, for a good, like, 10 minutes. Um but when I had told him that about my lungs and said, like, how it hurt, he just started laughing, and he was like, "Yeah, well, you'll eventually get used to it." And I did. And right after that, he asked me how I felt, and I told him in like a really weird tone. I was like, "I don't know." Which just made everyone at the table start laughing. So, yeah, that ended up being it. I mean, we all just started end up talking, and before I knew it, class was over. And at this point, it had only been about like 15 minutes since I had hit it. So I was still on the come up. But I mean, class ends, and right after homeroom, I had my first period, PE. So I figured out it would be easy to get through, because it was PE, and it wasn't easy to get through at all, as you will learn, but it was the best class I could have asked for. So I get to the locker room and change and linked up with my homie Jordan, who was one of my close friends at the time. And I had told him about how I hit Braden's cart. And Jordan was experienced. Like, he had been smoking for a while, so he knew what he had on his hands and what he was about to have to deal with. So we got dressed out after we dabbed each other up, and we headed out to do stretches like we always did for PE. And we were yapping. I don't remember what we were talking about, but at this point I was pretty high, to the point where my brain was like foggy. I definitely wasn't at the peak, but like putting sentences together was starting to become an issue. Also, for some context, I vividly remember this being on a Monday, because we had the option to walk the track instead of doing a normal workout. The only thing is, if you walk the track, you'd get a C for participation for the day. But honestly, I didn't care because that's what I needed anyway. So I took the C and started walking the track with Jordan and a couple of our friends. And this is where it gets bad. This is where I start to peak. Um, about 5 minutes into walking, this is where my memory gets foggy. And I kid you not, I started blacking out. Not like I was falling over or fainting or passing out. It was more like I would close my eyes for like a couple seconds to like even a minute sometimes, and it felt like I would suddenly just teleport to a completely different part of the track. Like, my I was walking on autopilot, but like my brain, like, I literally just couldn't see, like I wasn't like registering any of it. And um, I remember, like, the feeling. I know some of y'all are gonna know what I'm talking about, but the visual, it wasn't a visual effect like any like psychedelic like shrooms or like tabs, but it looked like I was watching my life from a movie. Like, there was a black edge around my vision, and it felt like my eyes were farther back in my head looking at what looked to be like a movie screen. um, it looked like my life was playing through a movie screen. It's hard to explain, but I know some of y'all are gonna know what I'm talking about. So back to the story. Me and Jordan and the two girls we were with, we were just messing around the whole time, walking, but it got so bad at one point Jordan literally had to like help me walk because of like how faded I was. And I don't really remember this too much, but this is just what he has told me. So we walked the track for a good 30 minutes, and it was a bit of a struggle, but I mean, I was feeling good. Like, I don't really remember it, but I remember like the feeling was good. Like being faded was like it was fun as fuck, obviously. Um, and plus it wasn't that burnt because our teacher was over at the tennis courts doing the work like the workouts for the kids who wanted the A for the day. So I never got in trouble. Like he never noticed how like like fucked up I was. If he was like um monitoring us on the track, oh, I would have been cooked. Straight sent to the office. But after PE, I had science, and me and Jordan had the same science together. So me and Jordan walked all the way there after changing back out and sat down once the bell rung, and apparently I had just passed out. I don't really remember this, um, but these classes were shorter, maybe like 40 minutes each because it was a Monday. We had all of our classes. So I just passed out on my desk. And the apparently the teacher tried to wake me up, but he was one of the nicer teachers. So Jordan came in clutch and made up a story of why I passed out, and the teacher ended up letting me slide and he didn't try to wake me up. So, um I wake up right before the bell ends and Jordan's like, "Yo, are you good?" I'm like, "Yeah." And I was faded. And this is at the point where I was feeling good. Like it was still a little too much to handle, but I could definitely like function. My motor skills weren't fully out the window anymore. And after science, we had what's called a nutrition break. So it was basically like a mini lunch between second and third period. And it was only about 10, 11, 12 minutes, so just enough time to hang out. It was meant to be a nutrition break to grab a snack, but everyone would like just hang out and see their friends. So I ended up going to my friends, and this is where they started messing with me. The whole homeroom group, Braden, Emmanuel, and Will had surrounded me. Jordan wasn't in our homeroom, but he happened to be there because he was like a part of our good friend group. And at this point, I was still completely like I was still like faded, but like I definitely had my motor skills like I said. So when they circled around me and repeatedly yelled nightmare, nightmare, nightmare to scare me, honestly, it didn't mess with me that much because I knew they were just trolling. But after that day, it become like a running joke in our friend group. Whenever somebody was on something, everyone would like yell nightmare around them as a joke. It just became like a habit, like a tradition. And eventually, the 3rd and 4th period go by. I mean, honestly, my 8th grade year was stacked. I always had friends in every class, and this is where started to enjoy it the most, you know. I was I was feeling good. I was feeling relaxed. I got that like nice like head high, you know, and uh, definitely in 3rd, it was really nice. 4th, I was definitely on the come down, but I was still high. So after 4th, we go back to homeroom right before lunch, and we just messed around like usual and talked. And the other guys kept hitting the cart, but I mean, I was done for the day. And at this point, Braden asked me like how I was feeling, and I explained how it was and how I felt. And I mean, it was nothing. It was good. I mean, it was just a normal weed high, but besides getting too fried, go home on the PE track and fucking basically blacking out every 10 seconds. But that's about it, but as you'll come to realize throughout my story time, my friend group in 8th grade, we were little shitheads. And this was like an actual thing. My 8th grade year, the principal and teachers would always yap about how our 8th grade class had the most fights and how we were the worst class like in years. Like for example, we didn't give a fuck. In our homeroom, we would just rip the cart and blow smoke directly into the air. And my friends would do the same with their domers, but at the time I hadn't done nicotine and I wouldn't for a while. So, yeah, I hope you enjoyed this story, and drop a like, comment, and subscribe. I'll see you in the next one. I should be uploading daily, but once again, hope you enjoyed the story time about my first time getting high.